All right, so the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It's a Nicolas Cage movie that has him playing himself, and it has Vanity Project written all over it. But I'll say how I feel about it in a second. It's directed by Tom Gormican, and in this, Nicolas Cage, as himself, he's struggling in Hollywood. He's got debts and things like that. He's going after this part, doesn't really work out, and he's also having problems with his family. He takes this job to go to this island, hang out with this guy for $1 million, and that's Javi, played by Pedro Pascal. The CIA actually get in touch with him and let him know that Javi's actually the head of this this criminal organization. I think they run guns or something like that. And they kidnapped the daughter of somebody that's running for election. Right? They're trying to get that person to drop out of the election, things like that. So Nicolas Cage then has to spy on him for the CIA, which makes things kind of come to a head between the two because they've been getting along so well up to that point. So yeah, that's going to cause some friction with them eventually. I really like this movie. I think I might have loved it. I'm not a huge Nicolas Cage fan. I'm sure if you are, you'll definitely love this. There's so many references to his other movies and things like that. References to movies in general, really. But I'm kind of hot and cold on him. There are movies that I think he's great in, and I like those movies. There are movies that he's not great in at all, and I can't stand those ones. So, I can go either way depending on what's going on. But I do appreciate him as an actor, and his freak out moments are amazing, even in the really bad movies. And yeah, you get some of that in here. He's definitely crazy. He has these little moments where he's talking to like a younger version of himself or whatever, and it's insanity, and it really does go pretty far at a certain point. But it's hilarious. He's great in this. Not only him, but Pedro Pascal as Javi is really good too. Like he has this whole thing where he's meeting an icon of his, somebody he's a huge fan of, and there's this kind of awkwardness to it, but then also he's kind of like an excited kid just even being around him, and I think he plays that so well. He plays it perfectly. They have so many good moments together. There's one where they do LSD and they're working on the screenplay or whatever because Javi's working on a screenplay, and they're just running away from just two random people sitting on a bench. It was so funny. It's so over the top with them going over a wall and things like. It was so funny. I was crying laughing. Right, I haven't enjoyed myself this much in a theater in a long time, from what I can remember. But not only the funny moments, like there's also some emotional moments that really work. Like I actually felt really bad for him early on when he was struggling and trying to get this part and things like that. But then also Javi gives a speech about his dad at a certain point. And it's not that far into the movie, and it almost brought a tear to my eye. It was pretty touching, right? Like the way he plays it and then his character, I really got invested in it. Him and Nicolas Cage and their friendship was great. I mean, it really is fantastic. It's one of those situations where like the movie, yeah, it's got some writing issues, obviously, within the plot and things like that. It's definitely got some issues. I'll get to those, but it's one of those where like their performances like really really elevate the material, right? Like it's one of those. I guess we could talk about some of the negatives now. The CIA characters, Tiffany Haddish was one of them. I didn't really care that much. I mean, I could take it or leave it. Those characters, they were kind of funny, but I didn't really care. Like I was mostly invested in Nicolas Cage and Javi. So when the CIA people come by, it's like all right. And then also like the CIA would like ask a civilian, like an actor, to be like, yeah, take him down. But it's like okay, that seemed far fetched. Uh, there's definitely some other things in here that feel a little bit contrived. Like it's one of those things, which is kind of it's kind of a trope where you have to pretend to be somebody else or whatever. I've seen in other movies where nobody's seen this person, so you could just come in and just pretend to be that person because nobody knows what he looks like. It's like all right, it's a little bit much. It's a lot to go with. The whole thing with the family, which had some good moments, but I really wasn't that invested in the family and the whole thing with the daughter. It's like your dad is Nicolas fucking Cage. I mean, but the idea that at her birthday he like steps away to get a take a phone call. It's like what the it's Nicolas Cage. It's like I just didn't really get that thing where it's like, oh well, he always wants to watch the movies he wants to watch. It's like it could be a lot worse than that. I mean, I wasn't really all that invested in it. His relationship with his daughter. It gets to the point where characters just kind of pop up at certain points, and it's like, okay, they flew quite a bit to be here just now, just on a moment's notice. It's like, okay, because we need them here for the plot and, stuff like that. That really felt a bit much, right? Like you could probably pick apart plenty of things in this movie that could have probably been written better. I will say, and it's probably maybe it's the only time I've ever said this, it might be a little too short because I could have done with some more developing of Javi and Nicolas Cage's relationship, their friendship. I could have done with a little bit more of that because obviously that's the best part of this movie. I mean, that's the part that really got me into it. I don't know. I really liked it. It's the best movie I've seen this year so far. And I'm gonna give it a beyond awesome. That's my first highest rating to give this year. And I think it really deserves it. Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal are amazing in this, and I don't know. I really came to really like, maybe even love this. That's another thing that I forgot to say. Um, I don't know if this is just a callback to like Face Off, because I was thinking of Face Off with this, where whenever Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal jump off of something or something like that, like when they jump off that cliff, the stunt double for Nicolas Cage is so obvious, and I didn't know if that was just supposed to be a reference, because I thought of Face Off immediately, because in that John Travolta and Nick Cage have the word like the most obvious fucking stuntmen in certain parts, especially towards the very end when they fly up in that boat. So I don't know if that was a reference or not, but because this movie has just so many references and talks about the film industry a lot and things like that. They bring up like Paddington 2 a couple times too, which was funny. Uh, but yeah, that's something I definitely picked up on. Also, the effects with him talking to himself weren't that great. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm giving this my highest rating. That's the unbearable weight of massive talent, and that's it. We're done.